Whitney, thank you for inviting me to your studio today. I want to know how you describe yourself as an artist. You work in so many different mediums, so take me back to the beginning. What medium did you first start dabbling in that made you feel like, oh, I'm good at this, I really like it? I imagine you were a kid.
Yeah. I've always had a natural artistic talent, even as a child, and I don't know, I've just always been interested in a lot of different mediums. So probably watercolor and pen drawings. I've always had a high appreciation for like those botanical drawings, those scientific botanical drawings, like, where they super detailed everything and, all the different forms and stages of all the plants and stuff. That's kind of what I have in mind when I do my mixed media pieces.
So when you study that type of piece, the really intricate analytical drawings, does it come naturally to you to recreate that, or was it a learned skill? How did you go about kind of honing that?
I think it kind of comes naturally because I love being in nature and I'm always looking at, tiny little plants and things on the ground and flowers and that kind of stuff. And so I think when I look at, a reference photo or whatever, when I'm getting ready to start a piece, it comes pretty naturally. So all the little details, all the zoomed in stuff, and yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about your mixed media art.
Yeah.
What inspires your creations the most?
Just things I see in nature, like while I'm out working or hiking or just outside in general. It's like probably the next piece I'm going to work on is the catalpas just finished blooming, the catalpa trees. And last year I saw up close for the first time like a catalpa blossom, and they're so intricate and they're very cool. And then when I saw them blooming this year, I was like, oh yeah, I do want to do that. So that's going to be my next piece, just a cool blooming catalpa montage kind of thing. So yeah, really anytime I'm outside, like I'm always looking at stuff, observing, and that's where I get the inspiration in taking pictures of things.
So I'm not an artist, and what kind of amazes me is that you can look at something like a catalpa tree or a blossom, realize how intricate it is, and sort of even know how to start when it comes to drawing that.
Yeah, usually I start it's either with reference photos I've taken myself, like while I've been hiking in the woods or, at work even, like people's landscaping. I'll be like, that's an awesome pet flower. I'm going to take a picture of that real quick. Either reference photos that I've taken myself, or if I, like with the catalpa trees, like they're up so high.
Yeah.
Like there was no way to really get a good one. So like I will pull like images off, Google or something. And then I just kind of take little bits and use that as my reference to create the piece.
Yeah.
So it just depends.
So you aren't drawing the literal image that you found. You are piecing together sort of your own creation.
Right, yeah.
Very cool.
Like my most recent piece with the morels and the wild leek and the oak leaves, the wild leek I took the same day that I took some of the morel photos, but then some of my morel photos that I referenced were from like a year or two ago, and then the oak leaves were from a little branch of oak leaves that I found while I was out working, and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I'm like, gonna draw that at some point.
Yeah.
And so I had that, in my stash of photos and stuff.
So you can take what you find to be the most beautiful aspect of each thing. Okay, now when it comes to the morels, how long, start to finish, does a typical drawing like that take? Because they're so detailed.
Yeah, it depends on the size. If it's like the last piece I did, it's pretty large. So I worked on that, probably over the course of a month. Sometimes just a couple hours, sometimes I'd be up here all day working on it.
What is the hardest part of creating for you? It sounds like in general it's a pretty joyful, fun process, but is there a part that is less so?
Staying motivated sometimes.
Okay.
You get busy with other life stuff or work, or, your mind is willing, but the body is weak, and you want to come up and work in your studio and you have all these ideas and you want to do it so bad, but you're also just tired. So, that to me is like the biggest struggle, like kind of finding that balance. And it's always a work in progress for me, finding that balance. Like, I could come up here and neglect the rest of my life and
Right.
do nothing else. But
Yeah.
also it's like, okay, you got to like do the other stuff though too.
Yeah.
So for me, that's the biggest struggle. And then sometimes there is, like writers have writer's block, artists do have artist block too. You get working on a bunch of stuff and you're going hard for like, 2, 3, 4 months, and then you just can't,
Yeah,
and you
just
got to
tapped
take a
out.
break. Yeah. You have to take a break sometimes, and that's okay.
When you are working on a piece, do you definitively know when it's done?
Sometimes you have to walk away and then look at it again a couple days later. Other times you look at it and it's like, yep, that's it. That's done. No more. Because most artists could pick apart a piece for eternity until we ruin it.
Yes, and I hear that all the
Yes.
time. So I'm always interested to know, are you the type of artist who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, especially knowing that you work in so many different mediums, do you have a favorite piece you've created?
Probably my most recent piece.
Is
Yeah.
it always that way, or is it just that way this time?
Sometimes it's like that, but this one, I pushed myself in a whole new area with that. Like, I drew it out and then I started it, and I'm like, I really didn't know. I had kind of an idea of what I wanted it to look like. But then as I started drawing it, I started adding different textures that I've never done before on other stuff. So it was a lot of like, screw it, let's try it. Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's awesome. That turned out really great. Gonna keep doing that.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be probably, in my opinion, one of my best pieces to date. Like when I get started on that catalpa piece that I was talking about earlier, I do want to incorporate some of that new texture that I've discovered that I love, and it looks really awesome. So
Can you tell me about the texture? Like what do you do to create it?
just a lot of lines, a lot of line drawing.
Patience.
Yeah, patience too. And really like looking at your references and seeing where shading is, where bright spots are, okay, well that's a little bit darker here than there. It really all just boils down to shapes and textures. That's all it is.
Which I think I'm learning as I interview artists over the years is either you have it or you don't. When I look
Right.
at a piece, I'm not dissecting the shapes and the shading and the
Right.
lights and the darks, but I think visual artists really do.
Yeah.
So is that something that you just always had?
I think it's something I always had, but with art school and just experience and trying new things, like I think I've honed it in a lot more, as I've gotten older.
Sure. So what's next? Do you have a different medium you want to try? Are you going to continue to dabble with this kind of new texture work you're doing, or what's on the horizon?
Probably more of the mixed media, new stuff, really jamming on that.
Yeah.
So I want to try it out some more and see where it goes and keep working in larger format. It's been a long time since I've done that, so I really liked it. So I want to, because I tend to work kind of small sometimes for some reason. It's like I want to push myself and stretch out.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
What is the best part about being a creative?
Probably seeing the finished product, and I like, the process is fun too, because like as you keep going and you step back and look and it's like, dang, that looks good. It's like, and that inspires you to keep going. And then when it's all done, you feel so proud. And it's like, sometimes I look at stuff and I'm like, that came out of me.
Yeah.
Like I blow in my own mind sometimes because I step back or I'll, go downstairs and I'll come back up and look at it again. And it's like, I did that. Like,
Yeah.
you did that. Like, how do you do that? Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane the talent that people have that they can create the things that they do.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because I think some artists are reticent to give themselves that credit.
Yeah.
But it's so true. And what a legacy. I mean, you literally created something that didn't exist
Right.
before
Yeah.
and added some beauty to the world.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm.
What have you learned about yourself thanks to art?
To give myself a break, to go easier on myself, because there's so much in the art world, you know, in social media and how things are now than they were 20 years ago. There's so much pressure, and it's okay to enjoy slow art and to take your time. We're not machines. We're not robots. Like, we can't just crank stuff out. I mean, some people can, but for me personally, I enjoy the process. I enjoy taking my time, being slow.
And you enjoy the finished product. That's
Yes.
so cool to me.
Yeah,
I wish every artist could say that.
yeah.
Whitney, you are a pleasure. I love your work. I love your space. This
Thanks.
has been really fun. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
Arts in Focus on PBS Fort Wayne is funded in part by